Joined now by Jonas Horner from Khartoum. He's the Deputy Director of Horn of Africa and the International Crisis Group. Jonas, thank you very much for joining us. Look, you're in Khartoum. Wonder, can you bring us up to date with the latest on those demonstrations? Are they continuing to be relatively peaceful, or is there a threat that they could escalate?
Well, today was really dominated here in Khartoum by the protests. On the whole, they were relatively peaceful given the sheer number of people who were on the streets and the prospect for clashes with the groups who had sought the removal of the transitional government that you covered in your package. So in some ways, there's a lot of relief that those two groups didn't clash. But I think that the message was delivered quite clearly by those who came out on the street today, that they do want to see the continuation of this transition. They do want to see civilians continue to lead the transition, and they do want to see the military step back from its very prime role in the country.
You just mentioned the current situation. It is really a complicated one. How fragile is this current power-sharing agreement?
The power-sharing agreement is particularly fragile. This is a hybrid transitional government that sees both civilians and military come together. And even since October of last year, there was a peace agreement signed in Juba in South Sudan that brought in armed groups from the country into government. And certainly within each of those groups, there are divisions. In particular, the military is very concerned about prospects for, or civilian calls for justice for some of the abuses the military was allegedly party to during the era of Bashir, and even since then during the revolution. They're very concerned about losing control of the military companies that they control that are key to the economy. And they're very keen to make sure that they can have a more friendly civilian dispensation put into power that will take care of those interests.
And we mentioned a few moments ago the whole situation complicated by that attempted coup that has been attributed to supporters of Al-Bashir. What's the latest surrounding his situation? Is there any possibility that he could return to power?
Bashir himself, very unlikely. He is currently in jail here in Khartoum, but obviously Bashir was just one man, and there is still a litany of his Islamist supporters, followers, who still hold key roles in the government, in the country. Obviously, over the 30 years that Bashir was in power, he and his supporters were able to really capture the economy, to be able to capture resources. And so they still control key levers of the economy, key levers of the political context here. And so their ability to compete in elections is probably in many ways undiminished, even though there is significant pushback and a disempowerment commission that is seeking to claw back many of the resources that have been stolen largely from the Sudanese state. So that effort is key to keeping the Islamists on the sidelines here in Sudan.
Yeah, it is a complicated situation, but thank you very much indeed for bringing us up to date. That's Jonas Horner there from Khartoum.